Welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 564. Today is the 17th of September, 2025. We are going to answer your local SEO questions after a couple of quick announcements. And just in case you are new, you can always ask your questions ahead of time. Like, we get it. No, not everyone can make it live. We really appreciate it if you're here live. One, it's fun to have some comments going, some back and forth, and also it helps you because if we can't fully maybe understand your question or there's nuance to it, if you're live, we can ask, get some clarification. But again, if you can't make it live, just go to semanticmastery.com/HDHO, which is how you can also see us live. We change the redirect so it goes where it's needed. But if it's not during the 1 hour we're live, you can go to that page, find out some information, and also ask your question ahead of time or submit it. And then just make sure that you go and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you'll be notified when the replay is up and you can check it out and get back to us. And I can stop speaking weirdly. All right. Well, with that out of the way, I want to say hi to the guys real quick. Got a couple of other announcements and then we'll jump into questions. So, Chris, how you doing today?
Been good. Busy as usual. Had a pretty good workout as well. Hit a couple personal records again. No press releases today. And yeah, enjoying the day otherwise.
Nice. Well, Bradley, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Busy as hell. Been, neck deep in some AI stuff for the last several days, about a week now. I've been in there like messing with AI stuff and just amazing. It's amazing time we live in right now, for sure. But yeah, no, really interesting. I'm almost done with the AI answering service development for Tree Care HQ. And my clients, it's an answering service for tree care contractors, and I've been working on the marketing side of things for it and all of that. And I was hoping to launch it this week, but it's going to have to be next week now because I still got to get the landing page and everything up, and test all of it, all that kind of stuff. But as far as the funnel and everything, but I've got real high hopes for that to be a hell of a winner. Like, it should take off fairly quickly because the way that I'm going to do the AI answering service stuff is not give them like access to a high level app and all that. It's just going to answer it's just, there's kind of a big gaping hole in the market for a simple service that does exactly what this one will do. So I'm actually really excited about it because I feel like I'm going to end up, my local marketing agency will grow very rapidly once I start promoting this service. And so probably demo it maybe next week on Hump Day Hangouts a little bit because I'm excited about it, and it's something we're going to be possibly creating, kind of duplicating it or cloning it for our members to be able to implement into whatever industries they're working in. It's more geared for like home service type businesses, especially the smaller type operations, which are what a lot of our clients, or excuse me, a lot of our members start off with, is targeting smaller companies, which I get that. They're less intimidating. They usually require more handholding, but they're less intimidating to work with the smaller companies. And so a lot of those companies, especially home service companies, don't have, a kind of a regular, reliable answering system in place. And so they miss leads. And so there's a lot of opportunity in various industries for that right now. And now that AI has made it so affordable and inexpensive, there's really no reason that we shouldn't be using that as kind of a lead in, foot in the door type of a strategy. So be sharing more about that next week.
Nice. Well, Bradley hit on the mastermind. If you want to find out more about the mastermind, head over to mastermind.semanticmastery.com. If you are an agency owner, if you're a freelancer and you're doing local SEO, it's definitely a great place for you to be. You can find out more at the link there. Two other things I wanted to tell you about. Again, if you're doing local SEO, both of these are really good fits depending on where you're at. If you're looking for something of a blueprint, a systemized approach to local SEO success, go to localops.semanticmastery.com. And if you want 5 to 7 actionable local SEO insights each week with action items for each of those, that is all presented in a newsletter that you can read in under 30 minutes. Then head over to localmastery.semanticmastery.com. And just to wrap that up, all of that is included for Mastermind members. Mastermind members get access to all of that, but understand that if you're not ready for that, that maybe one of those would be a better fit for you. So check those out. Other than that, guys, anything else besides before we get started, or are we ready to start sending text messages to Wayne?
Just sending text messages to Wayne. Apparently, he called me, and just to be clear, I don't take unscheduled calls ever. And straight up, I mean, unless it's like a family member or something that, then it's like probably really important. But I don't take unscheduled calls. And honestly, I don't even answer the fucking phone because I get so many damn calls from solicitations, with all the phone numbers I got out there for high level accounts and sub accounts and all that kind of stuff. And most of them forward to my phone number, you know what I mean? And so I just all day long, I've got spam filters on my phone that just constantly lighting up. My phone's lighting up, telling me it blocked another phone call, blocked another number. So anyway, don't call me. Send me an email. If you're in the Circle community, send me a private message and then we'll schedule a call. And that goes for you, Wayne, and anybody else. But I'd love to have a chat with you, Wayne. There's no doubt. So just reach out to me via email. And by the way, that's the other thing. Email, I get, I'm sure everybody here does. We get all hundreds of, sometimes thousands of emails in a day. And it's a little overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. Funny little story very quickly. About three weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I had started to dabble a little bit with AI development, like AI agent development. Well, it was probably longer than that ago, but 6 weeks ago, whatever it was. Went out and bought an N8N account, like paid for a whole year of it and all that kind of stuff, and started testing with it and like kind of getting in there and doing a little bit of development. And I set up a bot, an agent that would monitor my Gmail inbox and would automatically filter and classify the emails based upon the parameters. Well, that was the extent of my AI development for two reasons. Number one, I realized after spending several hours just setting that up that I don't have the bandwidth or the time to be the one learning how to do all this shit. So instead, I'll just hire it out. Number one. Number two, I thought I configured it correctly. I turned it on and ran it for a week and realized a week later when I had missed a podcast interview that I was supposed to be on. I was being interviewed on a podcast and I completely missed it because all the appointment reminders and everything were being misclassified by the AI agent that I had set up. And so I missed like hundreds of emails, at least several dozen emails from clients and all kinds of important stuff over an entire week because of misclassified emails. So I had to turn the agent off. I haven't used it since. And so I'm back to email overwhelm. So anyway, I was just saying it was funny because I tried to, create a AI agent that would make things a little bit easier and more efficient for me. And instead it ended up causing me problems because it was misconfigured. And that's when I realized I don't want to be the one building all this stuff. I can come up with an idea. And if I can find somebody else to then implement that idea, it's a much better strategy in my opinion. So anyway. Right on, guys. Well, I don't think we have any other announcements, do we? Just jump right into it.
I'm good if you're good.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Wayne, I'll look for you to either send me an email or ping me in Circle, and I'll get with you. No, and yeah, but you don't have to be in the mastermind, Wayne, to be in the Circle community. You can be in the free community and you can still PM me, right? So, Adam, if you wouldn't mind, any chance you could get at Wayne?
Yeah, let me
the link
get
to join
that
the free
link.
community. Yeah, that way we can make sure he's in there. And then that way, Wayne, if you ever need to reach me, man, you can reach me in the community. That's what it's for. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. There's not a lot of questions today, but there's a few. So I'm going to jump into that and then we'll move on. I'm really excited. I want to demo that AI stuff with you guys, the AI answering service, but I'm going to wait till it's a little bit further along. Once I got the marketing side of things ready to go, then I'll be sharing that with you guys. So it might be next week, if not next week, the following week for sure. I'm hot on the trail of this. I really want to get this going. So I'll share with you guys my marketing and outreach strategy too, because I've got one that should work really well for it. So that I've already tested. Anyway. All right. So this is Huzzy. It looks like mostly all questions from him, really, except for one from Wayne. Interesting. The top 20 results for a brand name search with geolocated browser are already branded assets. Okay, let me restart that. If the top 20 results for a brand name search with a geolocated browser are already branded assets of that company, should we continue to build out branded Web 2s or should we keep our monthly deliverables as semantic links and press releases going forward? No, I would still, that's what our brand expander training is all about. Constantly want to be adding new branded and supporting assets, right? Again, it's talking about creating page URLs, right? So data points on the web, right? That have accurate information published about that business location, name, address, phone number, website, or some combination of those 4 data points. That is a citation. Whether it's structured or unstructured, it's still a citation, right? So published mentions of any of those data points, typically a combination of those data points, name, address, phone number, website, is a is a it's a reference, right? It's a citation. It's citing a source. And that the more of those that we can create, preferably on, platforms that have some sort of authority, the better it is. But it's not just about creating them. It's about making sure that Google is aware of them. That's what I call assisting with discoverability, right? We want to we want to spoon feed that data. When I say Google, I mean the language models too, right? We want to make sure that those page URLs that have corroborating data or validating data about that particular branded business location are being found, recognized by Google, other search engines, AI, large language models, et cetera. Do you understand? And so that's what the brand expander training turned into. It used to be syndicating content. It used to be Syndication Academy, but the syndication component, when we were republishing the same content, kind of had a waning, like a declining of it didn't produce the effect that it did after, that it did originally when I kind of developed that process. But as part of the Syndication Academy training, we would go out constantly and find additional Web 2s, bookmarking sites, all different types of sites, document sharing sites, all those kind of things where we could create profiles, preferably with a link back to our primary website, but then also interlink those with other profiles, right? Where the business had, or the brand had, other profiles, other Web 2s, other assets where it had a branded profile. So we would identify the kind of better platforms and then create a profile on it with proper branding and interlinking to other profiles, okay, other assets. The whole point of that was you continue to keep building out these assets, whether you were publishing content to them or not. It was about creating this, expanding the brand's footprint, right? In SEO, everybody thinks brand, saying a footprint is a bad word. Well, it is in some cases, but in other cases, you want to expand or expand the footprint, which is what I was talking about with branded assets. So we eventually got rid of the syndication component of Syndication Academy and rebranded it as Brand Expander, because that was really the intent, was to continue just finding additional high authority type properties that you could create a profile on, optimize them fairly well, interlink them with other profiles. Then you take each one of those profiles and you add them into the same as attributes of the local business schema. And then you put them into the ID page. In the G sheet of the ID page typically is where I would recommend that you do it with the, hyperlinked. So concatenated URL with a search query or a keyword, right? That's what we teach. And then you have the embedded G sheet. So every time you create new branded and supporting assets, you want to extract that page URL and put that in the local business schema, the same as attributes, in the ID page. The G sheet typically is where we will put that. But then you would also, if it's a Google Business Profile, you also want to link out to those page URLs with Google Business Posts. Again, that gets Google to find them very, very quickly. So I'm not saying that you stop at when you got the first 2 pages of search results fully populated with assets or page URLs, external page URLs that are specifically referencing that company. And I probably should have started with this for more context for somebody that doesn't know what Huzaifa is asking about. One of the things that I teach is what I think is the bare minimum of branded location authority, like threshold, like the criteria for determining, and it's a very simple process. Use a browser geolocator. Okay, let me demonstrate this. I'm going to pause the screen just for one moment. I do want to demonstrate this because I think this is valuable. This is the first step in all my local SEO campaigns. Period. I mean, full stop. This is my standard operating procedure. Is we always start with determining what does Google understand about the branded business location. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. I use the Bright Local SERP checker. All right, and then we would just put in a company name and we would then go search for it. So I don't know. Let's just let's pick something. Let's use, now I don't have we'll use Albemarle Felling Pro. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and click Charlottesville, Virginia. So we're going to come here and put in the location first. Then we're going to add or search for a company name. So we're going to say Albemarle Felling Pro. So whatever your client's name is, or a campaign that you're analyzing or whatever, you want to put the brand name in there. Albemarle. I better spell that correctly. Albemarle Felling Pro. Okay. And then what I do is I look for the first 2 pages of the search results to determine how well developed is the knowledge graph according to Google. This is only Google's data. Okay. But the bare minimum is the 16 out of 20 or 80% or greater out of the top 2 pages should be specifically assets referencing that particular branded business location, right? Why do I say branded business location? Because it could be a multi-location brand. And so there's kind of a little bit of some flexibility here in that if it is a multi-location brand and you geolocate the browser and then you do a brand search, notice down here, see how it's saying this is a search that was being performed from it's simulating a search being performed in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is where this business is located, right? This is a virtual business, so to speak. But anyway, if it's a multi-location business, then as long as the top 2 pages are almost entirely populated with assets that are external assets, I'm not talking about if it's returning pages from the same domain. That's not from the actual company domain. That's not what I'm talking about. And if you have to, you can put in a minus and then put the domain, like minus domain, in the search, and it will actually remove any of those page URLs from the search results. I'm talking about external assets. Any sort of external assets that were page URLs on external domains that have accurate information published about the brand. Okay, remember, I prefer to see page URLs returned in the 80% or greater of the top 20 results, which would be 16 or more of the top 20 results should be page URLs that are specifically referencing that particular branded business location. That is the best. Like, in other words, if you have 80% or greater of external page URLs specifically referencing that particular branded location, when it's a geolocated browser that does then a brand search without like a particular modifier, like, city modifier or whatever, that's a very well-developed knowledge graph. But when it's if it's a multi-location business, then as long as the top 20 results are almost entirely populated with branded assets, or page URLs that are mentioning the brand, even if it's not that particular location, then I'll usually let that one slide and say, okay, well, at least the brand is well established, even if that particular branded business location is not. And that's still something we want to strive for, because again, if it's a multi-location business, when you have a geolocated browser, if Google is aware of those supporting assets that are particularly referencing this particular company, right, that are this specific company, then it should be returning those page URLs because they're the most relevant. Do you understand? So there's kind of like a sliding scale. There is the knowledge graph is underdeveloped to the brand is fairly well developed, but the particular branded business location is still underdeveloped to the branded business location is well developed. The knowledge graph is, does that make sense? And so that doesn't mean that just because you have 16 or greater out of the top 20 results branded or supporting assets that you should just then quit. It's like, oh, my work is done here. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. You should constantly be reinforcing, building more supporting assets, more references back to that branded business location on page URLs, and making sure that you are assisting with discoverability, because just creating those pages is not enough. Google is very inefficient at crawling the web because it is looking for literally needles in needles within a haystack of trillions and trillions of hay, strands of hay, or whatever you call it. I'm not a farmer, but you get what I'm saying? Like, in other words, Google is very inefficient at crawling the web because of the trillions of web URLs that it has to crawl to identify the needles in the haystack of those page URLs that have accurate information published about the brand, a particular branded business location. So we can assist as the marketer, SEO, whatever it is, we can help assist with that discoverability by basically spoon feeding that data back to Google and the language models through the 3 methods that I just described. Google Business Posts, that's how you can spoon feed that data back to Google very quickly. Go create or find a page on the web that has accurate information published about that Google Business location and link to it with a Google Business Post. That forces Google to crawl it and recognize, okay, there's corroborating data on this page that supports what we understand about this business location. Therefore, I'm going to pull that data point into the knowledge graph. We can help Google develop that very quickly. Guys, it's like this. If you and I were to go out and buy a puzzle, right, a jigsaw puzzle, and we could see what the image on the box is, right? We know what it's supposed to be, but we go home, we dump it out onto a table, and it's a bunch of scattered pieces. It's a mess, right? And we have to take our time to then start sifting and sorting through these pieces and organizing them properly. And as we start to find the appropriate pieces organize them correctly, and start clicking, snapping them together, then a picture starts to emerge from that mess, right? And the more pieces we fit in there, the clearer or sharper that image becomes. It's the exact same thing with Google. It's almost a perfect analogy, because Google has a vague understanding of what the business, who the business is, what they do, and where they do it from how the GBP was optimized. But then it goes out and starts scanning, crawling the web, trying to identify those validating data points that corroborate that information. And so Google is very inefficient because it has to crawl through trillions and trillions of puzzle pieces to find the correct and appropriate pieces to then fit together so that that sharper or clearer image emerges from that mess of data. Do you understand? And that's exactly what it is that we're trying to do. So the minimum starting point for me, if I do a competitive, it's either going to be a competitive link analysis or a full SEO audit. Whenever I take on a new client, it's going to be one of the starting points, always going to be one of those two things. If I start on a competitive link analysis, and I'm always going to look at the on-page factors when I'm doing a competitive link analysis, and if I see that there's on-page issues or things that stand out that are likely causing performance issues, then that's when I'll then switch to doing a full SEO audit. And the first step of a full SEO audit, the very, very first bullet point, is doing a brand search with a geolocated browser to see if it pops a knowledge panel or that specific location at the top of a map pack if it's a multi-location business. The second bullet point then is getting a count of how many of the top 20 results are specifically branded at external page URLs referencing that brand, but preferably that particular branded business location. And if it's less than that, then it needs improvement. And then the third bullet point in the audit is then go check to determine if the campaign is assisting with discoverability. So what do? I go look at Google Business Posts. Are they being published consistently? And are they linking out to external assets? And that's something that very rare that I ever see from anybody other than our own students or members, okay? Number two, I look at the schema and the local business schema to see if the same as attributes are being referenced there, or if they're at least or in the organization schema, they should be in the local business schema, not organization schema. But in any case, I'm looking just for same as attributes. And then also I look to see if they have a dedicated ID page. And once again, unless they're a member or a student or whatever of Semantic Mastery, they're likely not going to have an ID page either. And so that's why getting back to the original question was, should we stop after you've gotten the top 2 pages populated with branded and supporting assets? Absolutely not. You keep building and building and building. So this one's not, I don't have a client for this location anyway. So, but this one's not doing bad, but it could be doing a little bit better. It's just slightly under that kind of threshold, if that makes sense. But this is just kind of an example to show you what I'm talking about. Okay. But no, you don't want to stop. Keep building. Always. The more of those that you create, the more brand authority you create. That is the number one most important thing. I talk about this all the time. The 2 most important things in local search, in my opinion, are branded location authority, number 1. Number 2, site efficiency, right? So if you get the branded location authority part right, you can have deficiencies in some of the other SEO areas, and you can still perform very well in local search. That's why you never want to stop building that branded location authority. So create additional supporting external assets, and then make sure Google and the language models are aware of them. And that's how you do it. It's a good question. Next one says, how often do GMB reverifications get approved when a business changes their address from service area to physical location? And what do you do if the GBP verification gets denied or suspended? How often do they get approved? I don't know. If it's a real valid business location, then I tell my tree service clients that I recommend that they do it. But every time we've ever had a reverification or a suspension occur from a real valid business location, we've not had any trouble getting them reinstated. Sometimes it takes a while. Usually the reverifications aren't hard, but the suspensions usually take time. And that's, but honestly, I've had a number of it's probably been 3 months since the last time we did it, but typically what we'll do before prompt or request the tree contractor or suggest. I might suggest it, but I tell them if they agree to change from a hidden street address to a published street address, then I say before we make that change, though, we need to prepare for it. Like basically set the stage by doing some things to provide validation signals before we attempt the switch, right? Before we make the change from a unpublished street address to a published street address, we want to make sure there's enough supporting evidence online to support that it does indeed that business resides at that location. That goes right back to precisely the first question. The more supporting branded external assets that we can create that mention name, address, phone number, and website, or some combination of those data points. In this case, if you were trying to go from an unpublished street address to a published street address, then you obviously want the street address being published, right? So you want that out there. So, for example, if it's a unpublished street address tree contractor, and I suggest to them I'm always transparent. I give them that warning up front, like, listen, we're rolling the dice here. This is going to be a bit risky. It always is. Most of the time, we're able to get the change accepted without reverification or suspension, but sometimes it does trigger reverification, and in some rare cases, it triggers suspension. And if that's the case, if it's reverification, as long as you have a valid business location and I confirm all of that with them ahead of time, then we should be fine. But if it suspends it, then it could be a bit of a challenge to get it back, or at least take some time to get it back. So I'll leave that up to you, Mr. Contractor, Ms. Tree Service, which is very rare, but something like that. I'll leave it up to you to make that decision. I would encourage you to do so because I think it's worth the risk because of the amount of additional business it can generate, because the GBP will perform significantly better, et cetera. So getting back to what I was saying, Yext Power Listings, perfect for that, right? Because Yext Power Listings, we can very quickly update roughly with the published street address in the United States, roughly 60 business directory listings on the higher authority business directories. So very quick, well, I say very quickly, it's 3 to 4 weeks. We can get all of those kind of citations or business directories to sync with the new data with the published street address. And then we extract all those page URLs. We link out to them with Google Business Posts before we trigger before we make the change from a service area business to a published street address business, right? We use the Google Business Profile to link out to the citations that have validating signals at name, address, phone number, and website information, specifically the published street address, right? So put them in the ID page, put them in the same as attributes, do all the things that I just talked about in the previous question. But we publish a press release, preferably a premium press release that announces within the content body of the press release, it has a reference to the street address. No kidding. You do all of these things ahead of time so that when you go to make that change, Google's already got, and it's not that you just published all this information. Google is aware of it, right? That's why, again, you use Google Business Posts, the schema, the ID page, all of those is where you would take the press releases, the branded assets, the citation URLs, link out to them with Google Business Posts, same as attributes in the local business schema, put them into the ID page, all of that stuff before requesting that change, that edit to the GBP. Does that make sense? Because then when you do it, most of the time, in my experience, most of the time, it goes through just like that. Well, it usually takes 10 or 15 minutes, and sometimes it'll get stuck in whatever the pending phase, the edit pending phase. For sometimes it'll get stuck for days, but usually it will end up going through, just to be clear. Oh, and by the way, one other thing is I would recommend before doing any changing of it's from service area business or publishing the street address. You know what? I haven't tested that. Excuse me. I was going to say, like, to change the name or to change a URL. What I recommend is instead of doing it in the GBP itself, you actually do it as a suggestion from a local guide account. But I don't think you can suggest, and I've not tried it, suggest a business be changed from a service area business to a published street address. I'm quite sure you can't do that. But what I was going to say was I've done things like change names. For example, Albemarle Felling Pro used to be Tree Care HQ Local. That's what we were just looking at here a moment ago, right? This used to be Tree Care HQ Local, and I changed that to Albemarle Felling Pro. And the way that I did it was exactly what I just mentioned a moment ago. I've got Yext Power Listings for this. In fact, I'll pause the screen again and I'll prove it. And then I did a press release. And what I ended up doing, and then what I ended up doing was, here it is, Felling Pro. I ended up publishing a press release and where is there it is, right there. Here it is. All right, so see, I'm in SEMrush and I've got Albemarle Felling Pro right here for Yext Power listings. That's local listings. See, it's like I said, it's about 60, right? There's 59 connected because it's a published street address. So I did all of that first. And then when I went to go change this from Tree Care HQ Charlottesville to Albemarle Felling Pro, I did that as a suggested edit through my Google local guide profile, like Bradley Benner's profile. I'm like a local guide level 7, I guess. And so that's what I did. I just went in and suggested an edit, and it took about, I don't know, 2 or 3 days, and the name was changed. All right. And so again, if you can create enough validating evidence, supporting evidence, all that we just talked about in the first 2 comments or questions, excuse me, were about that. Enough branded location authority. So if you have enough, and how do you build branded location authority? By producing more evidence of it. Right? And that's all we got to do. And we can manufacture that evidence, is what I'm saying. We've got to make sure that it's discovered, though, too. So it's kind of a 2-step process. Manufacture the evidence, make sure that they're aware of it. Does that make sense? Anyway, good question again. Next one. So how many get, what happens if they get denied or suspended? You try again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just try to create a new GBP. I don't know what else to tell people when you know, that's why I always give them the heads up, like, hey, just understand we are running a little bit of a risk here. And if you lose your GBP and we can't get it reinstated, then you're kind of screwed. I let them make the decision, you know? Yeah, you just set up a new GBP. Organic only SEO, I think, is pretty much worthless and local now. You know, I still think we should be, because organic SEO influences how the GBP will perform in map search. It influences it. It's not controlled by organic. Like, GBP performance in map search is not reliant entirely on organic SEO. Like, in other words, topical links and everything else, but there is an influence on it. Okay. And so, but what I'm saying is, and so I always recommend that you, for local businesses, remember, service area businesses, they're going to have a limitation to how much area coverage they're going to get from the GBP anyway. So if they want to rank past that, I tell them there's really only 3 options. 1, stick with organic only. 2, do organic plus Google Ads. Or 3, try to secure another GBP. Those are really your only 3 options if you want to try to expand beyond where the map GBP is going to get coverage. There's a limitation to where Google Business Profiles will get coverage, and there's a number of variables that determine how much exposure they'll get. Their population density, the number of competitors, there's a number of variables that determine that. And so once you kind of find where the kind of invisible boundary or barrier is that the GBP will just not go into the top 3 beyond that, then your only options beyond that are organic, Google Ads, or getting another GBP, or a combination of those, right? And so, you know, basically I just tell them, you know, we're gonna focus in on trying to get your GBP to rank as far and wide as we can, which does include proper, or you know, SEO for organic search, that because it influences it, right? But what I'm saying is, if a client were to lose a GBP entirely and they were unable to get a new one, then I would tell them, like, yeah, we can focus on organic and ads, but you know, organic search for local search type queries produces such a very small amount of leads now because of how far down non-paid listings have been pushed on the page. Like, think about it, guys. There's local service ads. Sometimes there's regular search ads between local service ads and the map pack. Now there's oftentimes paid Google Business Profile listings, right? Sometimes I see, you know, a 3-pack goes to a 5-pack because there's 2 paid GBP listings at the top. And so then you get, you know, 3 or whatever, or non-paid maps listings in the maps pack, so that pushes typically the organic search results below the fold. Sometimes 2/3 of the way down the page now you have to scroll before you, or halfway back down the page anyway, before you get to the first organic non-paid search listing. You know what I mean? And so it's very rare. I'm not saying very rare, at least in the industries that I've tracked. It's been for many years. We were last time I actually checked this, it was back in like 2020. But from all the leads that I generated in the tree service industry, about 70% of them came through the maps pack. About 20% came through organic, and 10% through ads. But that was also before local service ads, which local service ads actually convert quite well. They get a lot of traffic. I know that because I've got one client where I'm actually managing local service ads, the only client I've ever done it for. And they're, first of all, they're a hell of a lot easier to manage and set up. And it produces well for him. It really does. So I don't have any newer data, but I can almost guarantee you that ads are taking a larger percentage and organic has not a larger. Remember, I said 70% came through maps, non-paid maps listings. 20% through organic and 10% through ads. But that was 5 years ago. That was before local service ads were in the tree service industry, at least available in the areas that I worked in. And that was also before Google kept pushing organic non-paid listings right below, so far down on the page. So my guess is now, because of local service ads, that it's probably closer to 70% still in organic, or excuse me, map search, non-paid map search, and then probably closer to, 20% ads and 10% organic. I don't have any data to back that up. That's just an assumption based upon, being in this industry, and seeing where the leads are coming from. Hopefully that's clear. Okay. Anyway, that was a good question. Using your local SEO SOP, how much longer does it typically take for a service area business with no location to get results compared to businesses with displayed addresses? And can we get time estimates for campaigns if we order the competition analysis video add-on? No. There's no way. First of all, I don't. How much longer does it typically take? I have no idea. It varies about there's so many different variables that affect that, right? It's not just the address, but it's all the other signals too. The address is a big part of it, though. There's no question. I mean, look, even if all your other things are done properly with an unpublished street address, it's like entering a fight with one arm tied behind your back. It's just unfair. It's not right. The amount of boost that a GBP gets from having a published street address is huge. So how much, and I tell that to tree contractors all the time. Look, we can still get, decent results, but it's going to be limited. The area coverage that you can get on a map is going to be significantly less when it's an unpublished street address. At least that's been my experience. If you're in a really rural area without a lot of competition, it's not very, very difficult, but that's kind of rare too. You know what I mean? Usually there's a lot of competition, even in the suburbs. And so having an unpublished street address, how much longer does it take? I can't tell you that. There's so many different variables. I'm not even going to give you a guess because it may never perform well. That's just the reality of it. Okay. Can we get estimates? No, I don't make up data. I don't. If I'm going to speculate something, I'm going to disclaim up front. Like, this is an assumption I'm making. You know what I mean? And so, no, I'm not going to give you estimates on that because there's too many variables. I have no way of being able to determine that. Okay. The only way you're going to be able to determine that is when you just start working on that campaign and see how it responds and things like that. Then when you start as long as all the other factors are done properly, which when you have an unpublished street address, all those other factors become much more important, right? Branded location authority. I mentioned that before. Like that's number one. Site efficiency, number two, which is an on-page thing, right? That's an on-page thing. That's why, going back to the previous question where you was like, well, if you can't get a GBP, should you just rank on organic only? And I was going to say ranking organic only assets for lead generation is almost, worthless in my opinion. But if an organic asset is tied to a Google business profile via the website URL, right, then it's critically important that it's optimized properly, even more so if it's an unpublished street address business. Right. And so if you're going to have an unpublished street address, it's really important to make sure that everything else is done really, really well. And then once you start link building, creating additional branded assets without the street address and all that kind of stuff, then you can usually start to get an idea of a timeline, an estimated timeline, once you see how it starts to respond to those signals, those external signals. Hopefully that's clear. All right. Okay, for a brand new GBP in a new domain, if we build out branded Web 2s, citations, and press releases in the first month, can we get straight into semantic links in month 2, or should we wait a bit longer before building topical and geographic links? No, we do branded and supporting assets up front in the ID page and all of that too, but we typically start with topical links right in month 1 because usually the campaigns that come to us have just really terrible link profiles. And so we are usually pushing topical relevance in month 1, and then we start on geographic link building in month 2, just to be clear. That's usually the case, but we always base how we do our link building upon the competitive link analysis data. So if the company is doing well in map search, but they're doing terrible in organic, then, or if their backlink profile's got a horrible backlink profile with no topical relevance, et cetera, then we're going to focus on the topical relevance first, at least in the month one, to try to push appropriate relevance into the campaign. And sometimes we have anchor text ratios to imbalances to overcome or to correct. So it just depends on what the data is. That's why we do a competitive link analysis before I ever build a link to any campaign ever. We do a full competitive link analysis report and review so that we can make decisions as to what is the priority as far as links for this campaign. Is it topical links? Is it geographic links? Is it branded assets? Is it a combination of all three? And if so, what should we prioritize first, right? All of that data is discovered through that competitive link analysis report process. Okay. So again, typically whatever the data tells us is going to make that inform our decisions as to what should be applied and in which order. Okay. And that's what we do. So usually, yeah, you can start right on month one with topical or geographic links. What is the priority? The competitive link analysis report will tell you that. All right, YouTube comment question. Is there an SEO ranking advantage to host a local site on Amazon S3 compared to a regular provider? And the comment was, that was the video. Can I create an article for a product review and upload it in a bucket inside Amazon so that I can rank this on Google first page? Well, yeah, I mean, that's just a normal cloud page. So yes, goal is to get clicks on my affiliate links inside this article. Yeah, Amazon S3 though, that's probably not the best for trying to rank a cloud page, just because S3 pages are usually they're slow to index. Some of the other ones are better. Microsoft Azure tends to work pretty good. There's a number of cloud hosts out there that you could use though. Just test with them or go into one of the cloud stack groups, because there's bunches of them on Facebook and all that stuff, and just ask a question in one of those groups. Right now, which cloud host is producing, is ranking the best right now? Just phrase it that way. Which cloud host is ranking the best right now for a cloud page? That's it. You ask that question in some of the groups, and those that are actively doing a whole bunch of cloud page work will be able to tell you that. S3 is probably not the best option for that. I still use S3 for ID pages. I've been doing that since 2019, and I'm not going to change it because I like the authority of the Amazon domain, and it works well, and they will index eventually. Sometimes it takes a while, but they will index. So anyway, next question. Do you ever use niche edits as tier one? Yeah, of course. Or do you always use blog posts? Well, for example, if it's a campaign, like if it's a non-local campaign and it doesn't have a GBP, then yeah, we'll just use niche edits. Typically, we can still do, if it has an ID page, we can still do a regular blog post. We just omit the map embed, still have the two anchor text links, but one to the money site and one to the ID page. But yeah, we use niche edits for tier one. But typically the reason why we don't, for like on the normal links that we build at tier one, are going to be what we call niche relevant blog posts or geographic blog, or niche relevant blog links or geographic blog links. And the reason for that is because it's like a guest post, in that we are creating a new piece of content that then is optimized for specifically what it's linking to. And then we do the two anchor text links, one on the money site, one on the ID page, and a Google Map embed. And so we can power up the three, what I call tier 0 assets from that one post. But yeah, you can certainly use niche edits. That's just inserting a link in a previously already published post. That's clear, but you're only getting one link. And so, yeah, you can use niche edits you can do a niche edit to a map URL, to an ID page, to another tier 1 post, whatever you want. You can use them as tier 1 links if you want. But it's up to you. For example, for Felling Pro sites, a lot of the Felling Pro sites that I have don't have GBPs. And so we use niche edits to link to those, just to be clear. Okay. All right, moving on. Wayne, here goes. This is a good question, Wayne, and we'll wrap up answering this one, and then we'll check on questions. A few Hump Day Hangouts ago, you mentioned that having a blog on your site might actually hurt you. Why? I can give you lots of examples why. Can you give reasoning, please? Yes, I'll be happy to. Okay. So the biggest problem with blogging on the money site is competing pages, duplication, redundancy. That is the helpful content update as it relates to local, specifically addressed a number of things, but one of them was redundancy and duplication or anything that creates points of crawl resistance. That's thank you, Cecilia. She's the one that kind of coined that term for me, at least. Points of crawl resistance, right? Google is looking to punish sites that have excessive crawl resistance. What is crawl resistance? Technical SEO errors, um, redundancy, over optimization, duplication, anything at all like that that can create problems or use more resources than is needed. Okay. And so when the algorithm shifted away from a keyword-based algorithm where we used to, Wayne, when you were very active in our community, what did we used to have to do? We used to have to publish a separate piece of content for each keyword variant that we wanted to rank for, right? You couldn't just rank one page for all the variants of a keyword by just optimizing it for the top level term. You had to create variants, like separate pieces of content optimized for each variant of the keyword that you wanted to rank for. But now in the entity-based algorithm, that is super inefficient, and Google is punishing that specifically. No kidding. That is, again, part of the helpful content update, because under an entity-based algorithm, there is a group of search queries or keywords, related terms, whatever you want to call them, because I don't like thinking about them as keywords anymore. But there's a group of search queries that are associated with the entity or entities that you were optimizing the page for. And if you properly optimize the page to signal to Google that the page is not keyword optimized, but entity optimized, which I teach how to do that, okay, through the main optimization elements of the page, the URL, titles, which includes SEO title and H1, headings, which are H2s, subheadings, which are H3s, 4s, 5s, etc., media and internal links. Those are the main optimization elements of the page. And there's where we should be using entity variants for whatever each page should be optimized for one primary product or service entity. And if it's a local business, a local project, then oftentimes you're going to want to create an association with a location too, okay? Or a service area region, depending on what type of business it is. But a page should be optimized for basically a product or service entity. And then all of the search queries that are associated with that product or service entity now that page is relevant to all of those queries, regardless of whether or not that specific phrase is even referenced on the page. It doesn't matter, right? Google knows all of the queries because of its language model. It knows all of the associated words that are associated with that entity. And so if you optimize at the entity level, then if you have other pages on the site that are targeting specific search queries that are already related to a particular page that's optimized at the entity level, then now you've got competing pages on the same domain. That's duplicate content, redundancy, right? People say, well, that's duplicate content like press releases or when you're syndicating content. No, it's not. It's not duplicate content unless it's on the same domain. And when I say duplicate content in the sense of like, okay, for example, there's when syndicating content like what press releases do, for example, or if you were resyndicating content from a blog to Facebook or whatever, it doesn't matter. There's the original and then there's copies. That is not duplicate content. There's original and there's copies. But on the same domain, if you have pages that are targeting the same search query or the same keyword, whatever, again, I don't like to look at anything as keywords anymore. But then that becomes, when you're saying the same thing over and over and over again on the same domain, that creates competing pages, redundancy, also known as duplicate content, okay? Which is precisely why I teach not to build location times for service area businesses, especially where, again, Wayne, we used to do this all the time, right? I taught it. We did massive kind of like mass pages and all this kind of stuff where we would create a page for each keyword times each city that we wanted to rank for every keyword times every city. And it was just this absolute garbage sites that we would have to create because it would be the same stupid content over and over and over again, where the only thing that changed was the location modifiers. Well, enter the semantic web and the helpful content update, and Google said that's enough of that shit, right? It's redundant, it's duplicated, it's not helpful, it's using more of Google's resources than is necessary to crawl all these stupid spammy pages that add no additional value to the site, because what was already said only needs to be said one time. It doesn't need to be said, if there's 15 locations, it doesn't need to be said 15 times. It only needs to be said one time on the site, period. Right? You understand? And so on where we used to, and I used to teach this part of Syndication Academy training, right, was to go out and blog consistently from the main money site and syndicate, republish content from the main money site out on the syndication network properties, right? And we talked about publishing blog posts to target all the long tail versions of the search queries that we wanted to rank for on the main money site. And we would find the top level product or service pages or location pages, depending on what it was we were trying to promote in search. And we would create supporting blog posts with long tail versions of search queries or keywords that were relevant to that product or service. And then we would create an internal link within that blog post to link up to that top level page, and then syndicate that content out across the web, which would create additional backlinks, blah, blah, blah. All of that was effective for years. That was exactly how I got results for tree clients or for local clients, period. And then the semantic web occurred, right? And Google shifted away from keywords to entities and all that kind of stuff. And that's where the helpful content update came out shortly thereafter. And there's been a few rollouts or major updates to that. And now I see it all the time because I do competitive link analysis and full SEO audits for white label clients all the time. So I see it across all industries, period. What I see is competing pages all the time, and most of the time it's from those websites, the local business sites where a lot of blogging was being done or still is being done. And I still see a lot of agencies out there that are telling their clients, which is absolutely incorrect. Yeah, we need to be blogging consistently so that we can keep getting more exposure on Google. No, you're hurting the exposure right now because, again, Google's algorithm is much more efficient now in that if there is a page optimized, a top level product or service page, Google's going to consider that as the page that is all the related search queries are associated with that page. And so if you start publishing or have not, maybe you're not still doing it, but if you still have a lot of published blog content targeting all these, which would be supporting content, yes, but now it's competing with the top level page. And so when somebody searches Google, enters a search query into Google, and there is there's more than one page on the domain relevant to that query. Google now is unsure of what is the most relevant page, and so it will serve more than one page in the search results, meaning give it an impression for that particular search query. But none of those pages are going to rank as high as they would have had there only been one page on that domain relevant to that query. That's what's called competing pages. True cannibalization is where if there are multiple pages on the same domain relevant to a particular query, then for any given search instance, only one page will appear. So you'll see and again, that's what Ted Gubitis's Cora Lite software, which has the SERP volatility tester in it. That's what it does. It goes out and will do 10 back-to-back searches, or you can do 20 back, whatever. The default settings are 10 back-to-back searches for a particular search query, and it does it, immediate back to back. And it I don't know how that's been affected with Google's new, not honoring the 100 results rule. I haven't used the SERP volatility tester in probably 6 months because and I'm getting to a point here that may be broken right now. I don't know what Ted's done to fix it. I don't know if it caused a problem. I don't know because I haven't used it in 6 months. But before this whole issue that just occurred on September 11th, I think it was, where Google stopped honoring the 100 results. The way that the SERP volatility tester worked is it would do 10 back-to-back searches for a particular query, and it would pull in the top 100 results for that query every time. And it would show from the same domain, because you add the domain that you're tracking in the report and before you run it. And then it would show, for example, search 1, 2, and 3, this page ranked. In the other page, if it was only 2 pages, the other page would have an X during those first, it would show the position that the page was in with the comma, and then the next search would be the position the page was in. So it would just show say 3, 7, 9. So meaning the first search, this page was in position 3. The second search, it was that same page in position 7. The third search, it was that page in position 9. But then on the fourth search, there's an X because it was now a page way down here that was in position 27 that occurred for that fourth search instance. Does that make sense? Anyway, that was cannibalization. And I saw a lot of that when Google first shifted away from keywords to entities. We saw cannibalization was just wreaking havoc on local sites. But then something occurred as part of one of the helpful content updates. I believe that's when it occurred, is Google relaxed the cannibalization part of it and started to show more than one page from the same domain for a particular search instance when there was more than one page on the domain relevant to that query. But what I see is typically you'll see two or more pages. I've seen as many as 4, believe it or not. Very rare. I've seen 3 a few times, but 4, I think I've only seen that once. But page URLs in a search, the search results, excuse me, for a particular query, but they're all lower in the results than if there had only been one page relevant to the query. Do you understand? And so that's precisely why I say don't blog on the main money site anymore. In fact, if you got a bunch of blog content on the site, I talk about this in the audits and also in the mastermind, but how you can prune that content in a very smart way, like so that you don't cause problems on the site. Here's the thing, go look at Search Console, right? Go to Search Console, sort by go to search performance, go back 12 months, set your time frame in Search Console to look at the last 12 months results, then sort by impressions, but check the box for click page URLs. Then you check the box for click-through rate, and you could look, number of clicks is already average ranking. So you can check the box for click-through rate to show that data as well as average ranking position. But so go to Search Console, go to search performance, set the time frame to it, 12 months. Then you want to click page URLs, sort by impressions descending. And if you want, you can check the box for CTR, click-through rate, and average ranking position. Okay. But what you're looking at there is you want to look at page URLs that have high impression counts, but no clicks, because that creates problems, because those are pages that Google is getting. They're indexed, or else they wouldn't be getting impressions in search. Okay, you understand? So if a page URL is indexed and it's getting an impression in search, and that's why I say if you check the average ranking position box, you'll see typically why it's getting impressions but no clicks, because it might be like position 70, right? Which means Google's still serving that page because it's relevant to a query, but it's not optimized well, and therefore it's never getting any clicks. Well, that adds to or contributes to what's known as impression burn, right? Which is there's a threshold of if there are pages or websites getting a bunch of impressions, but it doesn't get any clicks, then how valuable is that site, right? And so anyway, the point is identify the page URLs that aren't ever getting any clicks from search, but are getting high impressions, and eliminate those first, prune those. But before you just start chopping content, removing content from a site, make sure, go double check it in Google Analytics too. So once you've extracted or kind of created a list of pages that have high impression counts but no click-throughs from search, go double check them in Analytics to see. Make sure you're not sending traffic to those pages through external sources like referral traffic through email campaign, social media, whatever, or paid media or PPC campaigns, or, like I said, email campaigns. Or you could also make sure that they're not receiving internal link clicks from visitors that have come into the site through other entrance pages. In other words, you want to double check both Search Console and Analytics, because just because a page isn't getting traffic from Google search doesn't mean that the page isn't getting traffic, and it might be valuable to the business for conversions or whatever. It may be a valuable page. They might be driving traffic to it via ads, external sources, or it's a page that people often click to once they come in from another page. So you need to determine all of that. Search app or SEO Atlas, Search Atlas, whatever that is. I don't use it, but I know that tool has a content pruning feature that integrates with Search Console and Analytics and does all of that for you automatically. I don't use that tool, so I just do that manually when it's, when I suspect, that is the problem. We'll go look at Search Console first, identify those page URLs, then go check Analytics. Most of the time we can just eliminate the pages. It's very rare that the pages because most of the time it's blog posts. And so that's what I was saying, guys. Go back and look at your existing content, look at your existing site, and you can very often prune the site. Here, I just talked about this at the beginning of today's call, right? The two most important things, branded location authority and site efficiency. Well, this is specifically talking about site efficiency. What we're talking about right now is site efficiency. How do you make the site more efficient? Get rid of the dead weight. All those blog posts are like bricks tied around your neck if you were to go swimming. It's like tying those are the blog posts are bricks around the website's neck. They're not helping. They're actually pulling it down. Get rid of that shit. If you think that the blog posts are valuable and important, and if the client wants that content out there, fine. Remove them from the main money site and publish them out on these branded and supporting assets that we've been talking about already today, right? The branded assets that you should be continually building all the time. Publish the branded or the supporting content, blog content on those instead. It's no longer competing pages then, right? It's on an external domain. So that's why. Hopefully that answered your questions. All right, guys, we got to wrap up. It's 5 o'clock. I'm going to double check the comments and then I'm going to wrap it up because I got too much shit to do today. So by the way, Wayne, yeah, just reach out to me, man. I'll see you. You and I can chat sometime probably next week because I'm fully booked tomorrow and I'm going to be traveling on Friday, but we'll get something scheduled for next week. You talked, let's see. You talked a month ago about a new AI program to someone who was a former partner. No, we're working, Semantic Mastery is working through a very advanced AI program right now, but yeah, I can't really talk about that right now. Maybe we'll share the fruits of it, the results of it in due time. I promise you. Okay. Can't talk about that right here, but Wayne, if you schedule a call with me, man, I'll be happy to share it with you on a private call. What's up, Craig? Have you ever heard of LeadSnap? Yeah, LeadSnap's awesome. That's Patrick Shannon's software. It's awesome. Look, if I'd have met Patrick, well, yeah, truthfully, if I would have met Patrick and known about LeadSnap before I got involved with High Level, I may have never gotten involved with High Level. Seriously. However, now because of all the stuff that I'm doing with it, I do feel like I eventually would have gotten because LeadSnap is really geared for local SEO stuff. But yeah, LeadSnap's good. I pay for an enterprise license because that's what we use to create the map images and the radius map images in the treecarehq.com directory. So I pay $3,000 or whatever it is for an annual license per year for LeadSnap. But my team only uses it to create the images that we put in the directory listings. So yeah, LeadSnap's good. It's really good. If you don't need all the stuff in High Level, then LeadSnap would be my second choice for sure. Let's see. Google GBP Def also helps in AI SEO. Yes, it does. Have you tested running any paid ads for SEO or white label link building services? Yes, I have. And I lost my ass. I'm not kidding. I even hired an ad. I tried running ads myself. And then I even hired one of our mastermind members actually to run ads for me. And I spent $7,500 and got 2 leads. That is not a joke. I swear to God. So cold email works just fine. Okay. I do just fine with cold email. I stopped running ads. I spent a lot of money on ads and it was I should have just taken the fucking bag of money out and set it on fire. No kidding. So I don't advise it. Does cannibalization and competing pages apply to map rankings? No, it does not. John Rogers, when I had a PBN network, I would get the blog roll as the homepage and make sure the entire post was shown on the homepage to get the most juice from the site. I noticed a lot of link sellers don't show the entire post. Does that matter or not? Well, yes and no. I mean, look, if a blog post is on the homepage in the blog roll, it's still receiving link equity from that homepage because it's a blog that's contained within that homepage, and the homepage is where the most link equity pools. Like the majority of internal link equity always pools on the homepage, and it's because the homepage, typically the logo or the home, whatever, like the logo and the home is present, like the home navigation menu button is present on every page, and that's why the homepage typically has the highest amount of internal link equity. But if the blog post, even if it's only a summary showing instead of the full text, it's still receiving link equity from the homepage while the blog post is on the homepage. And by the way, even when it rolls off the homepage to a paginated page, it's still, because of the link echo effect. Dory Friend has documented that for years, but because of the link echo effect, it still receives some benefit from that homepage while that post was present on the homepage. It's that effect will wane And there's variables that determine how quickly it will wane, but yeah, it still receives benefit from that. So I totally get why they don't, by the way, because they're better, in my opinion, it's better off and not, it doesn't look so spammy to have, if you have the full post displayed on the homepage and the homepage is mainly just one big long blog, that's definitely a link selling site. You know what I mean? You still benefit from just the summary being shown as long as it's on the homepage. Guys, I got to wrap up. Last question. Craig says, I only want to use Citation Builder from LeadSnap. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what their different plans are. I have a full plan, so I'm not sure. I only use it for the one thing though, really. Costco says, so basically, if we just want to rank the map, the GBP, we only need to optimize the location landing page for whatever they want to rank for and pump out branded assets and links. No. You misunderstood, and perhaps I was unclear. I've talked about this before, guys. If you're going to connect a GBP to a website, it has the way the entire site is optimized now has a significant influence on how the GBP performs. It's no longer just the landing page, because the landing page is connected to an entire site, right? Unless it's a single page site, which tend to not perform well anyways. But if the location landing page is just one page of a larger site, which it typically is, then the whole site's optimization is taken into consideration, has a significant influence on how the GBP is going to perform. You're better off having a GBP without a website at all if you're going to not optimize the website properly, if that makes sense. So you don't want, if maybe I misanswered the question, maybe I misinterpreted the question. If you were asking about does cannibalization or competing pages on the root domain, if a GBP is connected to that, will that affect maps ranking? Yes, it can. It can, because that's just bad SEO anyways. Why would you want to have competing pages on a domain regardless, right? Like, just get rid of it. That's my point. And so, yes, it can affect that. What I'm saying is, like, I've not had any problems with, like, for example, Google Business Posts. You constantly want to pump out posts targeting variations of keywords or search queries, right? The same thing that I just said don't do on the money site, you do want to do with Google Business Posts. And so there's no competing page issues or anything occurring from, like, publishing Google Business Posts targeting the same search query or variants of a query, which are all part of a greater, wider, broader entity, which is what you should be optimizing the site for. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't affect competing, like, content on the GBP, doesn't affect GBP performance. But if the GBP is linked to a money site that has competing pages, yes, that can affect Maps performance as well. Hopefully that's clear. Okay. All right, guys, we went 7 minutes over. That wasn't too bad. So appreciate you guys. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks, everyone.